when Ethan Cole rode back into the valley after 20 years away from the world. The wind seemed to whisper warnings across the dry plains, but he had long since learned that a man who's been through enough loss doesn't scare easy. The land stretched wide and lonely before him, 500 acres of sun-bleached soil, a leaning barn, a sagging house, and the faint memory of a dream his father once had of a place to grow old in peace. Ethan had bought it cheap through a bank auction, a relic left behind after the last owner vanished without a trace, and he had expected solitude, nothing but dust, wind, and the quiet company of cattle. But that morning, when he rode up the dirt trail and saw 3 figures standing on the porch, tall as trees and still as statues, something inside him went cold. They were women, yes, but not like any he'd ever seen. Strong, broad-shouldered, sunburned and proud, they stood as if they were carved out of the land itself. Their simple gray dresses fluttered in the wind, and their eyes followed him with silent intensity. For a long minute, neither side spoke. Then the tallest of them stepped forward, her boots creaking against the wooden planks. "You must be the new owner," she said, her voice low and steady, like distant thunder rolling across the prairie. Ethan nodded slowly, dismounting his horse. "Name's Ethan Cole," he replied, tipping his hat. "Bought this place off the bank. Didn't know anyone else was still living here." The second woman, dark-haired and calm as still water, crossed her arms. "We've been living here since before the papers changed hands," she said. "We don't take kindly to strangers." Ethan studied them, 3 women who looked more like frontier guardians than farmhands, their muscles taut, their presence commanding. "Well," he said after a pause, "seems we've got ourselves a situation." He set down his saddlebag on the porch and met their eyes. "I ain't here to cause trouble, just looking for a quiet place to work and rest. If you've got claim to this land, let's sort it proper." The red-haired one, standing on the far right, stepped forward then. "This was our husband's land," she said, her voice cracking slightly with emotion. "He passed 3 winters ago. We stayed to keep it alive. Then the bank came and took it." Ethan's expression softened. "Sorry for your loss," he said quietly. "Didn't mean to trespass on anyone's memory." But she shook her head. "We're not ghosts," she said, almost fiercely. "We're still here, still breathin', still fightin', and we need this place." The silence that followed hung heavy between them, broken only by the wind scraping dust across the porch. Ethan finally sighed, glancing out at the horizon where the sun was beginning to dip low. "Then maybe we don't have to be enemies," he said. "This land's big enough for more than one story." The 3 women exchanged glances, a flicker of surprise passing through their eyes. The blonde one, clearly the leader, stepped closer until she was standing just a few feet from him. "You'd share the farm?" she asked cautiously. Ethan met her gaze. "I'd share the work, long as you're honest, and long as we all pull our weight." For a moment, she studied him in silence, her jaw tight, then she extended her hand. "I'm Mara," she said. "This is Cora and June." Ethan took her hand, feeling the calluses that told a story of hard labor and survival. "Then it's settled," he said. "We'll make this place live again." The days that followed were unlike anything Ethan had expected. From sunrise to sunset, he worked alongside them, hauling water, fixing fences, rebuilding what time had torn down. The women moved with precision and strength, wordless at times, but efficient as a team that had known struggle all too well. Over campfires and quiet suppers, he began to hear fragments of their story. How the man they'd shared, a traveling rancher named Caleb, had built this place for them. How he'd gone out one day to sell cattle and never returned. How they'd kept the ranch running alone until debts came knocking. The more Ethan listened, the more he realized that these women had endured storms fiercer than any he'd faced. There was something about their resilience that both humbled and unsettled him. They carried their pain like armor, but there was also warmth beneath it, a buried tenderness that surfaced in fleeting moments, like when Cora laughed at his clumsy way of cooking beans, or when June paused to hand him water on a hot afternoon, her eyes softer than her voice. By the end of the first week, the ranch no longer felt like a haunted memory, but something alive again, something shared. Yet, on the 8th night, as the stars bled across the sky and the fire cracked low, Mara spoke words that froze Ethan where he sat. "We've been talking," she said, her voice quiet but heavy with purpose. "You need to understand something, Mr. Cole. This land, our life here, it isn't just soil and timber. It's a promise. We can't lose it again. So if you're staying, you're not just a tenant or a worker. You're part of it. You're one of us." Her words carried both welcome and warning, a binding oath beneath the surface. Ethan looked at her, then at the two others, their faces lit by firelight, solemn and unblinking. "And if I don't?" he asked softly. Mara's expression didn't change. "Then you'll leave," she said. Before sunrise, the fire popped between them, sending sparks into the night. Ethan leaned back, his heart pounding in the quiet. The choice was clear, but not simple. He had come to this land looking for peace, not purpose. Yet somehow, standing on that dry frontier with three women who refused to be broken, he felt the stirrings of something he hadn't felt in years: belonging. He nodded slowly. "All right," he said finally. "I'm one of you." Mara's hard expression softened just a fraction, and for the first time, a small, almost invisible smile tugged at the corner of her lips. "Then let's get back to work tomorrow," she said. The fire burned lower, the stars burned brighter, and the desert wind carried a promise of storms yet to come. And though Ethan didn't yet know what fate awaited him on that lonely stretch of land, one thing was certain: nothing about this place, or the people who called it home, was ordinary.